What the hell is up with Adam Sandler these days? The last 10 years have not been good for the guy. Year after year, Sandler stars in another movie that ends up as a box office success, but a critical failure. Then he started starring in commercial failures, and now he's just producing and starring in movies for Netflix, which are just as bad as anything he was releasing in theaters. On top of that, lately it seems like he just doesn't care about his films. Adam Sandler is often criticized for being annoying in films, but now he's criticized for not even trying in them. Movies like Pixels, The Ridiculous Six, and The Cobbler all feel like Adam Sandler isn't even happy to be in them. Maybe he's just given up trying to be a respectable actor and is now just looking for box office money. It seems unfair to the guy because he has done good work in a lot of movies. The Hotel Transylvania movies seem to be the only decent thing that he's been a part of in a long time. A lot of Sandler fans will tell you to check out the dramas he did. Films like Punch Drunk Love, Spanglish, and Funny People are considered some of his more respectable work, most likely because he didn't have much of a hand in producing them. All of them were directed by well-respected directors who used Sandler in ways that benefited the movie. However, there is one movie that Adam Sandler produced that nobody seems to know about, and that would be Reign Over Me. Reign Over Me was directed by Mike Binder and produced by Mr. Madison 23 Productions, a subsidiary of Happy Madison that was made to focus on producing dramas rather than the comedies from Sandler we're all familiar with. Unfortunately, Reign Over Me was a failure at the box office, only grossing $22 million against a $20 million budget. Because of this, Madison 23 was shut down, leaving Reign Over Me as the only film the company produced. So why did this movie fail? Was it because nobody could take an Adam Sandler drama seriously, or was it because it was just a forgettable movie? Well, since I'm someone with too much time on their hands, I'm going to analyze it. Keep in mind, I may go over some minor spoilers, but I'm reserving all the major spoilers for its own section at the end. So with that said, let's take a look at Reign Over Me. Reign Over Me stars Don Cheadle as Alan Johnson, a successful dentist who is dealing with feeling trapped in his family and is also dealing with one of his patients coming onto him. He soon runs into his old college roommate, Charlie Feynman, played by Adam Sandler, who is now a sad shell of his former self after he lost his wife and 3 daughters in 9/11. Oh, yeah, we're fucking going there. His dog died too, just in case there was any ounce of happy left in you. The movie focuses on Alan and Charlie reconnecting, with Alan trying to help Charlie tackle his past and move on. Honestly, the story is actually pretty good when it focuses on Alan and Charlie reconnecting. The movie feels its most genuine when these two are just hanging out. I totally believe them as old friends. It's paced really well and I never got bored watching it. This movie was being produced only a few years after 9/11, so it was risky of them to include it in the film, but it serves the story well. There are times where it feels like they don't tackle it as much as they could have, but given how soon this movie came out after 9/11, it's understandable. But it's done in a respectable way. It doesn't feel like it was thrown in there as a cheap gimmick, unlike in Remember Me, where that was ironically the only memorable thing about that movie. Here, it brings a sense of scale to what Charlie is going through, and a sense of understanding the world around him develops. Now, with that said though, it's not like this movie is nothing but sadness. There is some comedy throughout the movie, and it's warranted.
Had enough sleep, you faggot?
Hey, don't call me faggot.
Take one adult, one faggot?
When the movie brings out a laugh, it feels so reassuring. It's like we're being told that, yeah, we're in a dark place right now, but it doesn't mean we can't make light every once in a while. That whole theme fits the story perfectly. Though, with all that said, there are still some issues. The biggest problem with the story in Reign Over Me is some of the scenes are kind of clunky. The whole part about the woman trying to sleep with Alan is just a lazy way to point out that she is emotionally unstable. And there's a scene where something bad happens to a minor character, and it's a rushed way of showing how Charlie reacts to that kind of subject. Also, the resolution at the end is a little far-fetched. I'll go more into that in the spoiler section. Overall though, I would say the story of Reign Over Me is actually very well handled. It's endearing, it's heartwarming, and it goes through the ups and downs of reconnecting with old friends while dealing with new wounds. Like I said, the movie stars Don Cheadle as Alan Johnson. Performance-wise, he's fucking Don Cheadle. He's great. I'll admit there's nothing in this movie for him that requires a lot, but he does fine in the role. Now the character of Alan, I have some issues with. Alan is written as a likable dentist who doesn't earn the respect of his colleagues or his family, but he's really kind of an insensitive idiot sometimes. The way he suggests Charlie go meet some girls knowing what happened to Charlie's family makes him look like a total asshole. There's even a scene later where his wife suggests that he is actually jealous of all the free time Charlie has, and he is! It's played for a cute joke, but the guy's whole family fucking died! What is there to be jealous of, you insensitive fuck? And then there's a scene where he complains about his wife to Charlie. Are you fucking shitting me? Yes, I bet the guy who lost his family really wants to hear about how much your wife loves you. Must be nice, you fucking prick. To be fair though, those are the only real 3 times he comes off as totally unlikable. The rest of the movie he genuinely cares about his friend's well-being and wants to help him through his pain. He covers for Charlie when Charlie screws up and does everything in his power to keep him out of trouble and support him when he starts to open up. The film would have worked better if the two complemented each other's issues, which is I'm sure what they were going for, but it really feels like Alan doesn't learn anything from Charlie. He just seems to realize on his own what his problems are. With all that said, I do like Alan, but he's not as good as he could have been. Really, the person who steals the show is Adam Sandler as Charlie Feynman. The character of Charlie was once a successful dentist much like Alan, but is now completely detached from reality after the loss of his family. His hair is long and unkempt, he fidgets and mumbles a lot, and is always wearing headphones with music blasting to drown out the memories of his old life. When he's not out at loud punk shows or open mics, he's inside either playing video games or ritualistically redesigning his family's old kitchen. On top of the baggage he carries from his family, he is also suffering from constant paranoia, accusing anyone who brings up his family as being a shrink trying to send him off to deal with his issues, so much so that he's cut off contact with a lot of close friends and family, causing his former in-laws much grief. When he feels he is being manipulated, he is prone to extreme fits of rage and flies off the rails. And this complex character is played by
John, absolutely.
Adam
The Blizzard
Sandler.
always came straight with his messages.
Are you
Wrap your minds
fucking
around this,
serious?
gentlemen.
But, believe it or not, he's the best part of the movie. This is seriously some of the best acting I've seen out of Adam Sandler ever. His performance is so genuine. When he's having fun with Alan, he looks legitimately happy, and when he's in pain, he is really grief-stricken. He plays the role so good. He just owns it. I don't see Sandler half the time, I just see a great performance. The scene in the movie where he opens up about what happened to his family is just amazing. It's all done in almost one take, and Sandler's face goes through so many different emotions coupled with some really well-crafted dialogue. It almost feels like the entire movie was written around this scene, and Sandler delivers it flawlessly. The movie is worth the view just for this scene. It is simply beautiful and tragic all at the same time. Charlie's character progression throughout the movie is very legitimate. You see his walls gradually come down throughout the movie, and while he doesn't exactly start to become his old self, he does start to pick up the pieces of his life. I would say the only nitpick I have about Adam Sandler's performance is that he seems to talk with some lisp throughout the movie, which I don't get. I mean, I understand that he's trying to portray a broken man, but that doesn't mean they suddenly start talking different. That's like if I got hit by a car and started talking with a British accent. Also, they don't show any real flashbacks to what Charlie was like before he lost his family. I would have liked some more explicit flashbacks or even maybe film reels of what Charlie used to be like so that the contrast to who he is now would be even more tragic. Regardless, Sandler still gives an amazing performance that is engaging to watch from beginning to end. The supporting cast is kind of hit and miss, and I'll be honest, it's mostly miss. Jada Pinkett Smith plays Alan's wife, and honestly, she's not very good. Then again, that just might be me. I've never seen her in anything where I thought she gave a good performance. She always seems to go too over the top for my taste. Even on shows like Gotham, I just can't get into her. And her character in this isn't that good either. She's overbearing, bitchy, and doesn't seem to give her husband any freedom. Yeah, it feeds into why Alan feels trapped within his family and his dilemma, but his dilemma compared to Charlie's is really weak, and it honestly seems a little too warranted why he'd want to get away from his wife. They don't really resolve anything either. They kind of just drop the issue by the end of the movie. Saffron Burrows is Alan's patient that is sexually attracted to him. While I don't mind the character in the movie, she is handled pretty clumsily. Her whole affection towards Alan is over the top and seems to belong to a different movie. She kind of starts off feeling like Gloria from Wedding Crashers. Then we learn later that she is actually recovering from a divorce and isn't in the best place mentally either. The second part of the story is where she takes on a more present role where Charlie feels an attraction towards her, and it's clear that she feels something towards him as she takes an interest in him later on in the film. I like the idea of two broken people coming together, and it's handled pretty restrained. They don't get together or anything. The movie makes it clear that it's going to take time for both of them, but leaves the door open for a possible future get-together. I can see what they were trying to use her for, but it could have been handled better, especially towards the beginning of the movie. It just feels forced. Maybe her and Charlie could have caught each other's eye in the therapist's waiting room and ditched the whole subplot of her trying to sleep with Alan. It didn't go anywhere anyway, so it's not like we'd be losing anything. Saffron Burrows' performance is okay, I guess. Her emotions seem fairly legitimate and she plays them well, but her fake American accent is pretty distracting.
Recently, I've come through a rotten divorce.
She enunciates her R's way too hard, and her I's still have a British ring to them, but I guess she's fine. So is Liv Tyler as the therapist that everyone seems to confide in. Her voice makes her very convincing as a therapist, and she serves her purpose in the story perfectly. The only other real characters I can think to talk about are Charlie's former in-laws, who want nothing more than to be a part of his life and remind him of his family. They're worried that he's forgotten his family or needs to see photos of them, but Charlie runs away from them every chance he gets. It is sad to see what they are going through, and you can sympathize with both sides. Nothing about them is played like they are the bad guys. It's two different sides of the same tragedy. One side chooses to forget, and the other chooses to remember. Neither is right or wrong, but it shows a good contrast to how people react to such a massive loss. Unfortunately, like Liv Tyler, their performances don't stand out in any way, but they serve the story just fine. Now I'm going to talk about some of the more in-depth story elements within the film, so this is where we will get into major spoilers. So skip to this time code if you don't want anything ruined. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into them. I already addressed clunky Saffron Burrows and bitchy Fish Mooney, but they're not the only characters that feel like tools. Alan's father dies early in the movie, and he learns about it when he is out partying with Charlie. Now, I know why this scene is here. It's to show that Charlie doesn't know how to deal with death. First of all, I don't think it's really all that necessary to show that Charlie has a problem dealing with loss. That's his whole character arc, but this death means nothing to us because we barely saw Alan's father. He had one line in one scene, and that's it. He wasn't needed for the story at all. Either make him an important character and have him die, or don't include him. He's just a small footnote in the story. Another scene I want to talk about is after that amazing scene where he opens up about his family, he comes home and starts to have flashbacks of his old life, and while they aren't bad, I feel like they aren't used enough. I really think the pain of this scene could have been made more impactful if, say, Charlie came home and it was like his old life again. His wife and kids are all waiting for him, and then once he feels at peace for the first time in a long time, the flames of 9/11 engulf his family, and when they disappear, he's just left standing in his empty house with no one on the other side. That would have been even more heart-wrenching and would have flowed into the next scene better. I'm not criticizing this scene for what it is, but what it could have been. It had more potential that I don't feel was properly utilized. The scene that follows I have more of an issue with. Charlie starts to have a mental breakdown, grabs a gun, and hits the streets. He points the gun at a cab driver and then some cops. Now I know he's trying to commit suicide by cop, and he doesn't really have any intentions of hurting anyone, but the fact that these cops didn't shoot him is really stretching it. It would have been one thing if Charlie just had the gun, but the fact that he pointed it at the cops and they didn't shoot him is just unbelievable, especially the NYPD after 9/11. He should have 40 bullet holes in him the second he pointed that at the cops. Now I wouldn't have minded if Charlie got shot in the leg or something. That would have made sense, but instead he is subdued and the cops beat him up, which is almost a little too understandable. But the fact that the charges get dropped make it even more insane.
9/11 widower gets beat up by the cops. Doesn't look good.
Or you could try mentally unstable man arrested for pointing a gun at police and innocent pedestrians. Charlie should have gotten charged and maybe gotten off with psychiatric care and community service. He gets off way too easy. And that leads us into the courtroom scene. I have mixed emotions about this. The prosecutor behaves very unprofessionally, but he does get properly reprimanded for it. So maybe it's okay, but I don't know, something about the cruelty of it rubs me the wrong way. It's like he possesses a personal hatred for Charlie rather than trying to make his case as to why he thinks Charlie should be committed. But this scene still has some great acting from Adam Sandler and it totally warrants its breakdown. My problem comes with the judge played by Donald Sutherland. Ideal casting, but his ruling at the end makes no sense. He leaves Charlie's fate in the hands of his wife's parents. What kind of judge does that? It's very unprofessional and feels like something out of a soap opera. It's seriously like the judge decided,
I don't want to judge things today.
It's so rushed and unfocused, but it does at least lead to a short but sweet moment where he reconnects with his in-laws before finally leaving his old life behind and trying to start over. So that's Reign Over Me, and how did it go over with critics? Reign Over Me received mixed to positive reviews but failed to leave an impact as no one ever seems to talk about this movie. It currently holds a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes. What do I think? Do I recommend it? Honestly, yes. Throughout all of its flaws, Reign Over Me has an undeniable heart and good intentions. It's not a perfect movie, but it has so much good in it. Most of the acting is good, the story is well paced, and the subject matter is relatable to those who've experienced loss. It's a film that's better than it had any right to be. It could have easily been a cheap melodrama exploiting a national tragedy to tug at your heartstrings, but no. It tried to tell a compelling story of real people and real issues. It didn't feel manipulative, it had good intentions that came through despite its flaws, which is why I give Reign Over Me a 7 out of 10. It's not the best drama Adam Sandler has starred in. I think that title still belongs to Punch Drunk Love. But it is still one of his best performances, and I hope that one day he goes back to acting like this.
They adored me, Johnson.
Instead of acting like this.
John, absolutely nothing. The Blizzard always came straight with his messages.